Today we're going to watch a video on multiplying decimals, and I want you to think back about when we were adding decimals, and you could use repeated addition to look at multiplication. So the example that's on your note sheet, I'm going to ask you to show me the repeated addition on your notes, is 5.4 times 3. So in your notes, can you show me the work where you're writing 5.4 plus 5.4 plus 5.4. So 4 plus 4 plus 4, that would be 12. And then 5, 10, 15, 16. And then remember the decimal comes straight down. So we get the answer of 16.2. If you want, you could fill it in on your notes. It says, therefore, 3 times 5.4 is 16.2. So repeated addition is always an idea for multiplying decimals. However, that's not the most time-efficient way. Another idea is to use estimation to decide if your decimal point's in the correct place in your product. So we're going to take a look at the problems on your note sheet again. It's giving you the product, except there's no decimal point in it. So what we need to do is to estimate to decide where the decimal point should go. So I'm going to ask you to take and round or use compatible numbers. Like for example, 24.5, I'm going to change that to 25. And 3.8, I'm going to change that to 4. And 25 times 4 I know is 100. And when I look over here at this number, I know 100 isn't close to 931. If I put the decimal point right here, I get the answer of 93.1, which is close to 100. Now, just to remind you, if you put it in between the 9 and the 3, you'd have 9.31, which is not close to 100. So we're using estimation to make this number close to the number we're looking for. Let's try number 2. And please make sure you're showing your estimate underneath. Instead of 0.95, let's round that to 1 whole. And maybe this, we could just go to 37. 1 times 37, we know it's 37. So if we look over at our digits here, if we put the decimal here, it's going to be 3,496. If we put the decimal here, we have 349.60. If we put it here, we have 34.9. And I think that's where we want it to be as close to 37 as possible. Okay? Making sense? Try number 3, 48.1. I maybe would change that to 50 times 2. That's easy for me to do in my head. I get 100. So looking at this number over here, I don't want 11,063. I want this number to be close to 100. So I'm going to put the decimal right here. So I get 110.63. Again, close to my estimate. Last one. I'm going to change 15.99 to 16. And I'm going to leave the 5 alone. 16 times 5, I can do in my head. I know that's 80. So again, I don't want 7,995. I don't want 799.5. I want 79.95. Now, to actually multiply decimals to get the exact answer, it says, just multiply as you would with whole numbers. Let's underline that. Then, place the decimal point in the product so the same number of digits are behind, I'm going to underline that too, the decimal point, as there are in the problem. Now it says here to first estimate the product, then find the exact answer. So let's do our estimating first on number 1. I'm going to show what I'm rounding these two on the line. I'm going to leave the 5 alone, but I'm going to change 18.63 to 20. 5 times 20 is 100, so I'm thinking my answer should be somewhere around 100. Now that first sentence said, multiply as you would with whole numbers. So when I am thinking about these two numbers, I'm like pretending the decimal point's not even there. This is 1,863. So I'm going to put that number on top because it has more digits. And then the 5, I would normally line up way over here on the right. So that's exactly what I'm going to do with decimals. Remember when you were adding and subtracting decimals, you had to worry about lining up decimal points. That is not the case when you multiply. You just multiply like normal, like it's not even there, and then we'll put the decimal point in at the end. So let's multiply. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 1 is 31. 5 times 8 is 40, plus 3 is 43. And then 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9. Now the decimal point has to go in 2 digits because I need 2 digits behind the decimal point because there are 2 digits behind the decimal point in the problem. So 2 digits in, my answer is 93.15, and that is very close to my estimate of a 1. Okay, next let's try number 2. Again, let's do an estimate first so that we get a good idea that our decimal's in the right place. So how about we do 2 times 2, which is 4. So our estimate, thinking our answer is going to be somewhere around 4. Now again, we're supposed to multiply as we would with whole numbers, so we pretend this is 24 times 17. Since they're both 2-digit numbers, I don't think it matters which one we put on top, so I'm just going to put 2.4 on top. Now I know it looks like decimals are lined up, but remember we're not worried about that right now. 4 times 7 is 28. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 2 is 16. 0 for placeholder. 1 times 4 is 4, and 1 times 2 is 2. So I've got 8, 10, 4. And again, my estimate was 4, which gives me a really good idea of where I'm going to put the decimal point. But if we want to go by these rules that were in our notes, we want the same number of digits behind the decimal point in the product as we had in the problem. So if you look up here, you change my color here, you get 2 digits that were behind the decimal point in the problem. So I need 2 digits behind the decimal point in my product. Okay, 4.08, which is very close to our estimate of 4. Looking good? Number 3, I'm going to round 0.98 to 1, and I'm going to round 5.1 to 5. So I'm getting an estimate of 5. Okay. Now again, if you look, there's 2 digits really. If you want to put the 0.98 on top because it has 3 digits, that's fine. But it's really like you're doing 98 times 51. Okay. So I'll do that so I can keep that 0 there. And then times 5.1. Now just multiply like normal. 1 times 8, 1 times 9. If you want to go 1 times 0, 0 for placeholder. 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 9 is 45, plus 4 would be 49. If you want to carry that 4 there and go 5 times 0 plus 4. Add them up. 8, 9, 9, 4. Again, remember our estimate was 5, so that gives me a really good idea of where to put that decimal, so I get close to 5. However, I'm going to use our trick again too. Look at the digits in the problem. There's 1, 2, 3 digits behind the decimal point in the problem. So I need 3 digits behind the decimal point in my product. And 4.998 is very close to 5, which was our estimate. Okay, let's try some real life problems. I'll read the problem to you, and then if you want to pause the video, I'll go through multiplying and doing the answers. But if you want to pause it and try it on your own and then just check back, you certainly can. So the first problem, and this is on the back side of your notes, it says Mrs. M took a shopping trip to Target to buy some gifts for the upcoming holidays. Calculate the amount spent for each item and the grand total of her shopping spree. Okay, so I need to change my font color here so you can see it. I'm going to do my work over here. You have some space on your note sheet off to the right. So apparently I bought 2 iPads, and they were $628.89 each. So to calculate that total for the iPads, I need to take 628.89 times 2. And now remember, we don't worry about lining up decimal points. I just almost pretend it's not there, so that's why the 2 is lined up under the 9. So now I'm going to go ahead and multiply like normal. And then my decimal point will have to go in 2 digits. So I get a total for the iPads of $1,257.78. Whoops, $. Okay, let's do the Xbox Connect. I'm buying 4 of those for $314.99. So I'm going to take my $314.99 and put that on top because it has more digits, and the 4 gets lined up at the end. Multiply like normal, that's 36. 36 plus 3 is 39. 16, 19, 5, and 12. Decimal thinking has to go in 2 spots. So the total for the Xbox Connect, I spent $1,259.96. And again, put your dollar sign. Last one is the board games. Board games, I bought 7 of them for $11.99. So I'm going to go $11.99 times 7. Some of you might know a little shortcut with this to take and round that to $12 and do 12 times 7. You might know that in your head. And then subtract 7 cents because you're taking 7 groups of $11.99 and you're rounding them up 1 penny. If you don't want to use that shortcut, feel free to go ahead and multiply this out. So I've got 63, 69, 13, and 8. And the decimal goes in 2 digits. So the 7 board games cost $83.93. Okay. Now, if you notice, we've got a second question. We calculated the amount spent for each item, but we have to figure out the grand total. How will we figure out grand total? That's telling me to add up these 3 numbers. I believe you have some space maybe off to the left in your margin that you could line these up, because when we add decimals, we have to line up decimal points. Now, if you want to line up all 3 of them at one time, feel free. I'm going to do 2 at a time. So I'm lining up my decimal points this time. I'm going to add up these 2 first. So I get 14, that would be 17, 17, 11, 5, and 2. And the decimal comes straight down in my answer. Okay, now I'm going to add on my board games, $83.93. That would be 7, 16, 7, 8, 11, 10, 6, and 2. Decimal comes straight down. So I'm getting a grand total of $2,601.67. I think I might just put a little bubble around that. Okay. Last example we'll do together. Of course, I also have to purchase some Snicker bars while I'm shopping, so gotta have something to munch on. The bag of Snicker bars was 11.5 ounces, and each ounce cost 33 cents. What was the total cost of the bag? So if I know I have 11.5 ounces and I paid 33 cents for each ounce, I need to multiply 11.5 times 33 cents. So I'm going to put the 11.5 on the top, and I'm going to put the 33 cents on the bottom. So pretend like it's almost like you're doing 115 times 33, okay? Multiply like normal. 5 times 3 is 15. That would be 3 plus 1 is 4, and then 3. 0 for placeholder. Again, we got 3 times 5 is 15. Carry the 1, that'd be 4, and then a 3. Add them up. 5, 9, 7, 3. Decimal's got to go in 1, 2, 3 digits behind the decimal point. And I want the total cost of the bag. Our money system ends in the hundreds place, so I need to round this to the nearest penny. Well, when I look to the right of the 9, the 5 tells me to round the 9 up. So my 2 choices are either to leave this at 379 or to round it up to 380. And I know that I want to round it up because of that 5. So the cost of the bag was $3.80. Okay, now what I need you to do is, if you look at the bottom of your note sheet, there are 4 multiplication problems. Those problems need to be completed by you on your own, and then you need to enter your answers into Schoology. That is what we will be looking at tomorrow to determine if you've understood how to multiply decimals. So please make sure that you work on those 4 problems and have those entered by tomorrow. Thanks.